Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. Do you have things that you are struggling to get started, or that you need to improve your leadership, or you have untapped potential? Well, these are some of the topics we're going to talk today about with Khiara Cureton. I'm Charisse Walker, your host of Unbreakable Mompreneurs, and let's get started. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, hello. I'm Khiara Cureton. I am the CEO and founder of AncHER Co. I'm a mother, and I'm an executive career and wealth coach for ambitious moms who want to land their first executive role, increase their salary by 30%, and doing it all while still thriving in motherhood.
I love that, because there tends to be this mom guilt, right? That as a society or as ourselves, we place on it. Like, we want to be home with our kids, we want to do things, but then there's some of us that are career driven, and being a stay-at-home mom full time is hard, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
so what do you find that some of the struggles are that women go through that are dealing with being a mom and wanting to have a career?
Sure. So I'll share a little bit more about my story. So I have always been unapologetically ambitious. I mean, I was begging my mom to get a worker's permit at the age of 15. And I just I don't know, I just always enjoyed working, and that little bit of freedom that I got from those paychecks. I would love to see what that is nowadays, and how inflation would probably eat all of that up. But I also knew that I always wanted to be a mother, right? It was just a matter of when. And so I was working in healthcare my whole career. I actually still do. I'm a vice president of operations. And at the point that we received the good news that I was pregnant, I was a healthcare consultant. And back then, right before 2020, we were doing traditional traveling. So Monday through Thursday, I was on a plane in a hotel in another city. And at that point, it really forced me to ask myself, like, am I living the life that I want to? Or if I stayed in this role and I became a mother, would I be living the life that I wanted to? And I personally just wanted to be a present mom, catching those first steps, sending him to daycare, all of that fun stuff. And so I struggled because I needed support in the way to say, hey, like, you're still ambitious, you still want to have a career, but you still want to be a present mother. And so I had career mentors, and then I had a financial advisor, but I didn't feel like I had anyone that was looking at both holistically. And so that's why I created AncHER, because I was like, there's got to be a happy medium where I'm feeling supported and challenged in my career and financially, but also allowing me to be at home. And so, to your point, go through those mental questions of, what does that look like? Is it, do I need to be home for everything? Do I need to be at every practice? And I truly think it is a personal decision and personal response. What makes sense and feels good for me may not make sense for someone else. And so I kind of just ask my clients to get really quiet, which I know is very hard to do when you have children, and really just ask yourself a certain set of questions of, what do I want right now? If there was no such thing as guilt, what would I want out of life? And that's kind of my starting point with what I do with my clients, to understand what is your current state and then where you want to get to.
I love that. And I think sometimes we know what we want, but we don't know how to articulate it, right?
Yeah.
Our gut tells us where we want to be, where we want to go, but
Yes.
having somebody to bounce that off of that's experienced in that is very helpful.
Yes.
So how do you find your clients?
So generally, it is a lot of referral based. I've gotten a couple of clients off of social media, but I am so I only take on 4 clients a quarter. I am not a big shop where we're pumping through 20 clients at a time. Our signature program is a 12-month program, so it is very long, because nowadays, in order to get a job, I mean, the minimum, unless you know somebody who's going to just get you right in, is at least a minimum of 6 months. But I do a lot of more of the internal work. Like you said, like, I love what you said about trusting your gut. our bodies intuitively tell us what we want. We just have to get quiet enough to listen, right? So all that said, it is very high touch. And so it is a lot of referral based. And I do screen to just make sure, you're in the right place to be coached, because it is pretty hands-on, and I don't say intense is not the right word, but it will start to unveil some things for you. You just have to be ready to just put in the work.
I love that. And 4 clients, I mean, that's not a lot, but if it's a 12-month, you still have the other clients that you're dealing with.
Correct. Yes, yes. And I do that because, I've played around with the idea of a group coaching program, which will maybe come down the road. But right now, again, like, I am helping women land their first executive role. So a lot of the times it's a lot of mindset work, and we just, we're human. We don't change overnight. And uncovering our money stories and, understanding how and why we're responding to certain things in our careers. It just takes time.
And it's so true. And I think that, I mean, our family and how our parents, like their careers and what you saw growing up, you think, well, let me just give an example. I remember my dad made like $120,000 a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I hit that number, I'm like, I've arrived, right? Yeah. But $120,000 30, 40 years ago is much different now.
Right.
And I was listening to a radio show today where the lady's talking about how her jeans, her $75 jeans, are now going to be $150 because of the tariffs and different things. And
yes,
they got talking about, well, how much would you be willing to pay? Like, what's your cutoff for a pair of jeans?
Mm-hmm.
Probably $225. I'm like, it's a pair of jeans, right?
I know.
But we all have different perspectives and things.
Yes.
Because jeans can last. If you think about it, how many years do you have a pair of jeans? They last forever.
Right.
So paying some money, I guess, isn't a big deal, but it's all about perception. Because I'm like, well, how much am I willing? $50 is more than I want.
I know. And, I don't even like jeans. Like, I'm like, give me some leggings or something. So even 50 is kind of like, but I agree with you, right? It's about the quality. And again, it's like, okay, am I going to have 5 pair of jeans, or am I going to have that one pair of $225 jeans? I'm not paying that, but somebody else might find that value, right? And that, so.
No, and so getting back to my point was, how do you bring women? Because a lot of times we are trained as women that the man is in charge, and that is changing a lot. Like, my generation is much different than what it is now, because unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but you see a lot more men now choosing to stay home while the women, they go to work. And so how do you help women, and what do you find they struggle with in mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the societal norms, right? There's still a lot being fed to us about, we're not good if we're not at every single thing, or you should take off X amount of years to raise a kid. And look, if you have that ability to do so, and your retirement accounts are still growing and all of that, I totally support that, because it is truly hard, especially those first couple of years when you're transitioning. However, there are lots of studies that do show women lose a lot when they get out of the workplace, right? Unless they have some really great financial systems set up for them, whether taking a step or a pause. And so again, it's kind of just getting back to, what do you truly want, right? Like, do you want to be out for 2 years? Do you want to be out until middle school? And not comparing ourselves, especially with social media nowadays. We see all the influencers, and it's like, oh, I wish I could sit at home and, build Easter bunny cakes all day, or whatever your thing is, right? And so what I always remind my clients, and I had to honestly remind myself of this too, is that my son's going to grow up, right? So he's 5 now, or he's turning 5 shortly. He's going to be 18 soon. So then what am I going to have, right? Like, what is going to be my thing once, my level of motherhood changes, because he's grown into a young adult at that point. And what do I want that to look like? And so I just say, get really honest with yourself and with your partner or your spouse, and just truly say, there's a couple things, right? Like, what can we afford to do? What can we not afford to do? And then just getting really clear on what you want, because I know it's so easy as a mother to put the needs of everyone else before your own.
But it is true, your identity. For the longest time, I used to be a college director, and that's how I would tell everybody that. And I'm not telling you that right now, but only to give you an example, right? But then I switched. I never would have thought where my businesses that I do now, because they don't need a college education, which is what I was so big on. And so I think that we do have to be honest with ourselves. I used to want a PhD, and although I still want it, it's like, I don't need it for what I
Right.
do. So it'd be a lot of time, and that's time taken away from my family. And so I think sometimes that we as women, we tend to blame, um,
Mhm.
or like, well, I didn't get to do that. Like as you get
Mhm.
older and your kids are going, well, I didn't get to do that because, and they come up with excuses where I'm
Mhm.
just like, embrace it. Embrace
Yeah.
it. You don't need to blame anything. If you don't want to do that, just be honest with yourself. I don't want to
Right.
do that right now, or I'm not okay with that. Or
Mhm.
if you have this cultural norm where you're supposed to stay at home with your children, but you're not that type of person, be
Right.
honest with yourself because your kids are going to see that you're miserable.
Yes. Yes.
And to me, that's a better example of showing them your passion. And if you can find what you're passionate about and still have that relationship with your kids.
Absolutely. And I think you would be doing a disservice to yourself and your family if you didn't step into what you truly wanted to do. And we're just, kind of going with the flow and the grain of what everyone else is doing.
I agree. So usually this podcast is about entrepreneurs, but
Yes.
women who are just starting out, they might not be able to. And so
Sure.
they still have their W-2 and they're like, well, this
Mhm.
is my dream thing I can still work on.
Mhm.
So those people that they need to elevate because obviously prices are higher now. What are some of the key steps to getting ready for your first executive leadership role?
Yeah, so there's a couple of steps. The first thing I always like to start with is mindset. What are those things that you're telling yourself or not telling yourself? I said this to someone else. I was like, trust me, you're an executive. Are you negotiating with your child about eating fruit snacks at 6 a.m.? Are you negotiating that they can't go to a party across town? Like, trust me, you have the skills, the time management skills, the negotiation skills to be an executive, right? But I feel like for women, and there's studies around this as well too, we don't apply for roles until we hit every single bullet point, right?
Mhm.
Whereas the man is 60%, right? So they just need 6 out of the 10 and they're in there, right? And so I say all that to say that you really have to believe in yourself and just step into the role. Even if you don't have that title yet of senior vice president or whatever, your executive role is within your industry, you have to believe that you can get there. So one, that's mindset. Mindset is huge. And that's career mindset, money mindset. And to speaking to money mindset, I always want to get very clear with people. I do a lot with the personal finance as well to understand what is your money story, right? What are those things that you're carrying with you from, your parental figure, your mother, your father, your aunt, whoever raised you? What are the things that you're carrying from that past into current state, and is it helping you or is it hindering you from asking for that salary bump, or wanting to apply to another role that makes more sense with a little bit more money, right?
Mhm.
And so starting at baseline, and then the next thing we do is once we do a little bit of visioning and dreaming and being realistic with ourselves and listening to our gut, it's about creating that plan, right? And so to your point, for those who are transitioning from or desiring to transition from the W-2 to full-time entrepreneurship, maybe that's a 2-year plan, right? Maybe it's a 6-month plan. It is very personal, but you have to sit with yourself and say, okay, what can I do right now? And what is the gap, right? And build a plan to fill in that gap and to get you to the other side of that. And then thereafter, it's really about just continuing to push through the plan, because women, we love a good plan, right? We love a nice little pretty plan, but the follow through is one thing that I also help my clients with, because a lot of the times that doubt, that guilt starts to creep in, and then we get small again.
Yeah.
So getting clear, creating the plan, and then following through with the plan is what I recommend. And you don't have to do this overnight, right? Small steps lead to big action, in my opinion. We've got a lot. We're managing ourselves, a family, a business, a career, whatever that is for someone. And it's okay. Just take those little steps and it'll get you ultimately to your goal.
I love that. And I think that we need the cheerleader, someone like you,
Yes.
because we're the cheerleaders. Like my husband, he lost his job last summer, got
Mm-hmm.
another job, but he went to apply and he's like, I'm not qualified. I'm like, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. So
Yeah.
he was super nervous to go on this, and because he didn't have this one skill that he didn't even
Yeah.
know anything about. He's like, I'm not going to get it because I don't know that. Well, they gave him the job,
Yep.
we interviewed all these people. That one thing you can totally learn it. It's all about making sure that you fit with our culture, which
Yes, culture. I was going to say culture is usually the biggest driver. I mean, some things, yes, I cannot go from an accountant to a neurosurgeon.
right.
Yes, some things just don't make sense. But a lot of the times I would lend to say that it's a cultural thing. And if you are willing to learn,
Mhm.
you can probably do a lot of these jobs.
True. This is very true. And I think that that's the part is that we are cheerleaders to everybody else, but we need
Yes.
somebody telling us you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, listen, I'd love to help as many clients, but honestly, take an evaluation of your circle, right? Who are the people, the mom friends, whether they're entrepreneurs or just moms and careers or whoever they are, family, are they supporting you? Lean on them as well and make sure that they're speaking positivity around you as well. But again, would love to, as a coach, support in that way as well. But you're probably going to talk to your circle a lot more than you'll talk to me. So making sure those people are on your side as well.
I love that. So what's the biggest leadership myth that's holding women back?
I would say there's a couple that come to mind, but the biggest one that I often help women work through is around, I'm not qualified enough, right? And that's not just meaning skill set, right? That can mean years of experience. And I think a little bit, or a big piece of it does go back to that notion of you can't be what you can't see, right? So if you're still looking at our Fortune 500, Fortune 50, those types of companies, these bigger, even the smaller companies, a lot of the times it is male in leadership roles, right? At the very top. And so I think not being able to see someone who is a woman, who is a mother, I think that's hard because again, it's like, well, that must mean it's not doable, right? And I would say to that is that they just haven't found someone, or someone hasn't applied or stepped up, right, to go into that role and be willing to change a few things, right, that maybe worked for men but don't work for working moms, right, or working fathers or whatever. So I would say truly just feeling like you're not qualified. And again, to your story earlier, qualification, what does that truly mean, right? Like it means different things to different people. And I'd argue to say, like, I encourage women all the time. I'm like, if you say that you want to be vice president of XYZ nonprofit, let's look at the qualifications that they're putting out there, but then let's take your current experience. And even if you haven't used a particular program, what's another program you've led or another Excel skill that you have? And how can we translate that to speak to that particular qualification? So there's lots of different ways. It just, don't box yourself in, right? Like get really creative in connecting the dots to help you feel qualified and apply for the role. So that's one part of it. But then you also have to truly believe in yourself, because that will come across if you're not confident.
Yeah, totally will. Yeah, I agree. And I want to switch gears because that's if you want to get a job and you want to promote yourself. But now I want to talk about you left that and you're now an entrepreneur. So what do you wish that you would have known then that you know now about starting your business? And I'm sorry.
Yeah. So to clarify, I am still a W-2, but I am an entrepreneur as well. And I just started AncHER in 2020. But one thing I wish I would have known is I wish I would have spent more time getting really clear on my niche. And so I always have been a support, went to all women's college. I've always been more of the feminist side. And so I initially started targeting, and I just said, women, career, and money, right? And then I got a little bit more niche and I said millennial women, right? But then once I sat with myself and I'm like, who do you really want to help? That's where I landed on mothers who are at this crossroads of still being ambitious, but still wanting to have a career. So I spent a lot of money on the copy and the website and the photo shoot, when I should have just sat and just taken some time to really, really ask myself, who do I truly want to help? So that's number one. And then number two, I wish I would have gotten a little bit more support on how to monetize, right? So of course we're using social, it's free, but I feel, especially nowadays, I feel like social is so noisy. So I'm always like, what could I have done differently? Go to more in-person events. I mean, it was a little tricky in 2020, but more virtual, but like what other ways could I have marketed myself? So really getting a really good understanding of like, lead generation, marketing, and nurturing leads, and warm and cold, like that whole marketing suite, I'm still learning. I wish I would have spent some more time and paid for support with that.
Right. And I think that that's important to realize, because there are so many coaches out there that all say, I can help you.
Right.
But do you really need like what they give and the whole program, or do you need it like very specified in this? And where is their professional experience? Where is their success in that? Like if they're newly starting out, go
Right.
somewhere else, right? I mean,
Right.
unless they want to offer to you for a drastically reduced or
Right. Price or something like that. Yeah.
yeah. And so I think that those are some of the things that you're right. We spend so much time trying to make something perfect, but I learned something that if you don't like you said that you didn't know your niche. Well, you create this whole program,
Right.
then you don't even know your niche. And so you're calling out to hey you in the mall instead of hey Susie, right?
Right. Right.
And so that's the part that you can spend all this time and yet nobody's going to buy the product and you have to revamp it anyway. So make sure
Yes.
there's a demand for it and then
Right.
time and be imperfectly perfect, right? Which
Yes.
means just start, don't build until you know. I've heard that from so many different people. So I love that you said that.
Yes, those are, yeah, those are two big. I mean, I have a slew of learnings. I think that's the beauty in entrepreneurship. If you can get around not being perfect, which I feel like women have a very hard time not doing, there's lots of lessons to be learned. And it's a wonderful journey. Like I've really, truly enjoyed it. And then also too, the intertwining the motherhood piece of it as well too. I've never felt like I had to choose one or the other, you know? Sure, are there late nights after I put him to bed? Yes. Are there weekends that I had to fly out for a speaking engagement so I'm there on time for Monday? Yes. But again, that's why I've loved this part of entrepreneurship, because I get to choose what I want to do or not do and invest my time in or not. So that's what I love about entrepreneurship.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so let's touch on motherhood real quick. I'm just going to ask you one question.
Sure.
You're sitting on a park bench and a 9-month pregnant first-time mom comes and sits next to you and you get talking. What is one piece of unsolicited advice you'd give her?
The first thing that comes to mind is cut out the noise. Listen to your mama intuition, because you're going to get fed a lot of opinions, but ultimately you know best.
I love that. Well, Khiara, if our listeners wanted to find you, how would they do that?
Yes, you can follow along. My website is www.anchor, and that's AncHERCO.com. Or you can follow us on Instagram at the AncHER Co as well. So I'd love to support you in any way that I can, whether it be the career side or just chatting more about entrepreneurship and motherhood. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for being on. And moms and mompreneurs, you can do what you set out to do. We talk about that you have to envision it. You have to believe in yourself and have the confidence, but you deserve what you want and go after it. Go out and make it a great day. And if you like this, please subscribe and share. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.